Okay, and then everyone's gonna make a copy of this.
Of what?
No,
Of what?
no. I just said it so many times. Here, JJ, you go to this assignment under our module, and then you click on this little worksheet. Yeah, simple. Okay, and then we're gonna count off to 5. We're gonna make 5 groups.
He's on target.
Okay. Count out loud. We're counting to 5.
2,
3,
1. 2, 3, 4.
Oh. I
Oh.
agree.
Woo, right down the
Yeah.
Maggie.
All right, let's have the 1s over in this corner. Take your Chromebooks. The 2s over here. The 3s over in this corner. 4s are gonna be, everybody listening, 4s are right back here, and 5s are over in this corner. Oh, good, you're a 5. Oh, you need your Gatsby books too. Just take your stuff. Just take Gatsby and your Chromebook. That's all you really need. But
I will not be protected.
middle front.
Right. Yes.
Okay, raise your hand if you're a 1. Raise your hand if you're a 1. Are you not a 1? Raise your hand if you're a 1. Raise your hand if you're a 2. Okay, there's your group. Raise your hand if you're a 3. Xavier, are you a 3? Okay. Raise your hand if you're a 4. Raise your hand if you're a 5. Okay, excellent. I am going to come to each group. Actually, no, I'm going to write it on the board what your page number is in Gatsby. So I'll tell you what we're doing, but write down or pay attention to what your page number is. Okay, group 1, your page 65. Group 2, you can turn there. Your page 72 through 73. Group 3, your page 89. Group 4, your page 90 through 92. And group 5, your page 95 through 96. Okay, so each of these instances are different versions that Gatsby. Each of these instances are like different versions of Gatsby that he reveals to different people. So on page 1, or sorry, on page 65 for group number 1, this is where Gatsby is introducing the story of himself. This is where he is like, oh, my parents are all dead. I come from the Middle West. And Nick says, where in the Middle West? And Gatsby says, San Francisco, which is a very confusing answer. Number 2, you guys, this is when we meet Wolfstein, which is Gatsby's, I'm putting big quotes around this, business associate. What kind of business is Wolfstein in? What do you think? Gambling, maybe drinking. He's in the mob. He's got mafia connections, this Wolfstein. So this is when we kind of learn that maybe Gatsby's business is not so upfront, not so respectable. Number 3, this is when we get this version of Gatsby that he reveals to Daisy. So this is like the lovesick Gatsby, the one where he is like, I am, I live for Daisy, right? Number 4, this is where we get a version of Gatsby through his stuff. So this is when he's showing us around his house and he's saying, this is my orange juice machine, and these are my beautiful shirts, and so on. And that's the kind of version of Gatsby. And then group 5, this is when Nick is kind of speculating about Gatsby and what his sort of like big dream is. You guys have the more philosophical version of Gatsby. So all of these are different versions of Gatsby, and I don't know which one is the real version. And I don't know if all of them are all kind of real versions. So your job in your group is everyone's filling this out. It's not just one person per group, it's everybody. And you guys are going to find 3 traits that Gatsby reveals about himself in your assigned passage. You're going to talk about what those personality characteristics show about what Gatsby is trying to like portray about himself. And then you're going to try and say, what do we learn about the real Gatsby in the way that he conveys this personal trait? So this one is like what Gatsby's in control of. And this one is like we as the reader, how we feel about what Gatsby's showing us. So when you do this, I don't want you to, delegate. I don't want you to delegate and say, hey, you know, Marshall, you're doing the first trait and Luke's doing the second trait and so on. I want you guys to collaborate. And the way I'm going to make sure that that happens is afterwards, I'll just call randomly on the group. And I want you to be able, like, I'll call randomly on someone in the group. And I want everyone in the group to be able to answer any of the questions about your chart. So you're working together to fill out that chart. And if you want to move the desks so that you're facing each other, like in a little circle or whatever, you can totally do that. Mess up my desk, I don't mind. Okay, I'm going to give you, let's start with 15 minutes. It'll probably take longer. I'll check in 15 minutes. I really want these to be very detailed. So don't, it shouldn't just take one word. It should fill out this whole box, probably with way more than this whole box. Okay, give it a shot.
All of the boxes.
You're going to fill out all the boxes together.
Don't stretch.
No, I haven't.
Whoa, JD, it's not me.
So cute.
If anyone else needs to borrow a book or
Oh my.
That was
Yeah, I can mention it.
Yeah.
For what?
I think he's also that's my affair. He's like, oh,
So basically, you fill out the trades and we can go on. Trade reveal this trade, what do we actually realize? No, just the first one. Is that what I say? When I say short. Yeah, I think I misprinted that. I'm trying to think back to what I intended 2 days ago. I think just quotations for the traits, because you're kind of working to the side. So you have the 3 traits that he's revealing, have some evidence to back up each of those traits. And then as you work across, you're kind of close reading what that quotation says in the first box. So total, you only have 3 quotations moving down the traits. Does that make sense? I'm gonna fix that. There we go. If you were confused about what I just said, I changed it. So it's just this column that needs the quotations.
Why?
Like basically like when I still think like about it, like that. Very astute. Already found out.
Because it is possible.
Yeah, it's back. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna work on this for, it's probably gonna end up being about 25 minutes, but. Okay. Got it.
All right, so first let's look at page 65. This is when Gatsby is telling Nick about the story of his life. And he says, oh, my parents are dead. I'm from the Middle West. You know, I was a war hero. I went to Oxford. Like he's got these just giant, like tall tales. What do we learn about Gatsby in this section, or what did your group decide you wanted to present about this section? Yeah.
How he's like, when I like first looked at it, I was like, oh, he seems like super proper. He seems like genuine, but he's also kind of crazy in the same way. But like
Yeah.
this guy is like, something's wrong, but he's he's really good at hiding it. But like you can tell, like he's hinting towards it. He's like, I want to tell you, but I'm not going to because I don't know. That's my God.
Yeah, I like that. This idea that he seems like the word we were using, like with Maggie here, was manic. Like he almost seems manic in this scene. And we'll watch the movie eventually, but the movie represents it that way. They're in this like car ride, and Gatsby is just like this horrible driver going like 80 miles an hour in a residential, you know, just like terrifying. And while he's doing it, he's telling this whole story. But even not seeing that movie, when we read this, what makes it seem like he's lying? Anyone in that group? Yeah, Jeffrey? Yeah, which is not in the Midwest, right? Also, who calls it the Middle West? I know we might not know because it's like from the 20s. So we're like, maybe they called it that back then, but no, everybody always called it the Midwest. So here he says Middle West a few times, which is like, is that him, like Maggie said, trying to seem more proper, or like it rings false? And then the fact that he says San Francisco, that's not the Midwest. It's the middle of the West Coast. Is that what he means? Like, so it just doesn't, things aren't adding up. JJ?
Also, I think there's a book that says also strict.
Yeah.
And I think he might be sacrificing
wants to tell you God's truth, but he's actually lying about everything, and he just wants to seem like this amazing great person.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like by saying this oath, like I'll tell you God's truth. If he were a religious man, then it would be like you have just like committed a great sin, like lying in God's name. But in this, it kind of seems like, oh, he's being more casual with his belief system. Yeah, Maggie.
I feel like he's just trying to hide what actually has happened, like throughout the past and where like he's become this like great person, just like so like I don't know, put together. And
Yeah.
like, and then like he like when they try to talk about his past, it's just like so hard for him to like think about it that it's like I can't get into that or else it will just come out of control. So like the lying part of it is like he's like inching towards it, like
Yeah.
but I want to like
Yeah, I like that. This idea that he feels totally out of control right here. Yeah.
it's like he's like I don't know, his feelings are like like it's almost like unemotional kind of way. Does that make sense? Like because when he's like, I really want to just like express myself, but then he's if I do that, I'm gonna weep, I'm gonna this, I'm gonna like it's gonna turn into a problem. Kind of.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's like we glimpse his insecurities through the way that he's lying. Matthew brought up that he mentions, I think it was Matthew, that he mentions his parents died twice, right? So it's like I am the son of some wealthy people in the Middle West, all dead now. And then a little bit down below, it says, my family all died and I came into a good deal of money. So what were you telling me about that? Because I liked it. Yeah. It's like Nick knows that he's wealthy too. Nick's seen his house. So obviously Gatsby has a ton of money. So either one, he's trying to show I got this money through legitimate means, or two, and I think these are both true, by the way. Two, he's trying to say, I have this old aristocratic money. My parents were wealthy, and so I am wealthy. And that kind of has this, we talked about old money versus new money, that has this sort of like feeling of class about it. And maybe he wants that part of it. But we were also talking about how the fact that he says my family is dead a few times makes it so it's like, Nick, whether you believe me or not, you can't check up on this. You just have to believe me. You know, there are no sources. Okay, let's look at page 72 through 73 now. Everybody turn there. And this is where we meet Wolfsheim, who is an interesting character. So before we get into Wolfsheim, let me just say, like, the portrayal of Wolfsheim in this book is totally anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic is like hatred of Jews. The fact that it focuses on his nose so much in this is definitely this sign that Nick is judging him for being Jewish. And whether that means that Nick is anti-Semitic or F. Scott Fitzgerald is anti-Semitic, there's a debate about that. But with that in mind, what did you guys think was revealed about Gatsby through Wolfsheim? This is group 2.
So, Gatsby was talking about Wolfsheim. He says, no, he's a gambler, which is basically him saying that he associates himself with the illegal activity that Wolfsheim does.
Yeah.
So that's kind of trying to gain Nick's trust by being honest with him.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. So if he hasn't been up until this point, if he's saying like, oh, I'm from all this wealthy background in San Francisco and all of that, this feels real. It feels like Wolfsheim really did fix the World Series back in 1919. So not only is he a gambler, he's like a bookie, which means you take other people's bets, right? And he's also doing illegal activity to make sure that money goes his way. So he's in the mafia. Wolfsheim is pretty high up in the mafia is what we learned from this little section. I like the way it talks about it too. Do you see on 73 how it says Gatsby hesitated, then added coolly? He's the man who fixed the World Series back in 1919. Did you guys talk about that line at all? What that reveals about him? What do you think in relation to what you guys were saying about Wolfsheim? What does it mean that he hesitates but adds coolly?
Trying to seem really casual, like just like how cool it is that he knows somebody like this. But it's weird, like he's trying really hard to say, oh yeah, I'm little of my friends who are criminals. So he's trying to
Yes.
be respectful, but saying
Yeah, if you've ever seen like gambling or sorry, mafia or mobster like movies, it fits with that kind of idea where it's like, I don't know if I'm ready to let you into my cool group because I have this loyalty among our group. But like Allison said, like just letting you into this little secret is a way of showing that I do trust you, even if you can't know stuff about me personally. Ashlyn.
I was gonna say he's like subtly arrogant. Like,
Yeah.
That's what ours wants.
Right. And he says, like, how did he happen to do that? Like, how did he fix the World Series? And Gatsby says, oh, he just saw the opportunity. Why isn't he in jail? They can't get him, old sport. He's a smart man. Yeah, there's some bragging there, I think. Like, he's a smart man and he's my connection. And I don't think that there's any remorse that the World Series was fixed on Gatsby's part. Okay, you guys have section 89. So everyone go to page 89. Oh, this is the cute scene. Did you guys like this scene?
No,
You don't?
This is such a cute scene.
I think it's cute. I mean, here's like this,
we must have focused on the wrong.
maybe here's this rich and powerful man, and I mean she's rich too, but you see like his total insecurities in this moment. Okay, so this is the section when Gatsby and Daisy have now met at Nick's house. See, I love that he cuts Nick's lawn because he doesn't want it to look bad, you know, and then he brings in all the flowers because he's trying to like arrange it just right. Like this is a meeting he has been waiting for a very long time. So what did you guys, what prove me wrong, tell me, what is revealed about Gatsby in this section?
We talked about how he's very materialistic
Mm-hmm.
in what he's doing. So like one of our first quotes was in the executive, we talked about how he's really optimistic to have a future with Daisy. But then he goes on and is like, oh, and look how cool my house is, and he wants to show her everything around his house when it says like, and it shows like in that part it's more like towards Daisy because he said that Nick and Daisy can come, but then he's like, I'd like to show her around,
Yeah.
and so it just kind of shows that he's kind of insecure in himself, and so he says all these things like where he's from and all his achievements, and he shows everyone his like material things to like justify his work.
Okay, yeah. So I think seeing it from that way, I totally see why it seems like Gatsby's like terrible, like that he's just superficial and all he cares about is wealth and status, right? And maybe that's the reason he really wants to get together with Daisy is because she has this wealth and status. But couldn't we also see this as him? He's trying to, I don't want to reveal anything because I've read this book so many times
I
now.
think we've all read it.
We haven't all read it. Jordan talks about when Daisy and Gatsby meet for the first time, right? Yes. Okay. And do we hear about like her before the wedding? Daisy before the wedding? We do?
Oh,
Okay. Okay. So couldn't we see this in like maybe a more positive light where it's like, wow, Gatsby has done all this stuff for her. It's like maybe the materialistic one is actually Daisy and that Gatsby's like, look at my house. So now that I got this house, you want to be with me, right?
Yeah, I think he also like in doing that he wants to show Daisy kind of the life she could have with him, especially
Yeah, right.
like I'm richer and better than him, so like she.
Yeah, and how do we feel about Tom at this point in the book? We don't like Tom. Like Tom is a racist and a jock, and not that there's anything wrong with jocks, but there is something wrong with racist jocks, right? He's like this like cruel, kind of awful guy. And so when we see Daisy sort of like falling for Gatsby here, we're excited about it, even if it is an affair.
Fine.
Yeah, it's not fine, but all right. So the next one is on page 90 through 92. And this is where we learn all about all the stuff that Gatsby is showing off to Daisy. I just like this is like this show and tell moment. Like, look at this, I've got shirts, I've got a stairwell, you know, like trying to sort of convince her to maybe leave her husband. So tell me, what is revealed about Gatsby in this moment?
I'll go first. It's kind of like it's kind of like something that's revealed is kind of like how he's like kind of has like shady business habits.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the beginning, at top of 90, it's like talks about like how he Gatsby's like, I earned the money, and then Nick's like, I thought you inherited it. He's like, I
Yeah.
did, but I lost it in the big panic. And then Nick was like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, that's my affair. And then he like says like, I was in the drug business, then I was in the oil business, but I'm not in either one now. So it's like he still kind of answered it, but he's still like saying the ways like he's like still saying like, oh, I'm not gonna tell you. He's like, oh, I did this and this, but he doesn't tell Nick what he's doing right now because it's like since he's like with the one mafia guy, it's probably pretty shady business.
Yeah, I really like that response too. Like if someone asked you what you did for your job and you said, that's my affair, like basically like, mind your business, like immediately you know that that person is in something terrible, right? Like you don't want to get involved with that person. So I like that it says that he realized that wasn't an appropriate response. So if somebody asked me like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, mind your business, you know, that's my affair. I suddenly say like, oh, hang on, I'm a teacher at a high school, you know, like what other job was I thinking of here? So I think like, yeah, it shows this sort of like really suspicious sort of like backstory to Gatsby that we maybe don't have a full picture of, but you're right. He has connections to Wolfsheim. I think we can assume at this point that Gatsby is also in the mafia.
I
Yeah.
think another trait we see is that he's like extremely insecure. And like where he says he's like, and I think he revalued everything in his house according to the measure
Yeah.
that responds to her will.
Yeah. Maybe it's not cute. Maybe it's just sad, but yeah, that he's like looking at everything in his house at the way that Daisy would look at it. Okay, here's my only thing to help make that relate. And I'm sorry if it's one of these things where the teacher's trying to be young. I don't mean it to be that. But do you ever like a crush or somebody you really like adds you on social media? So you go back to your profile and you like look through all your pictures and all of your videos to see what they would see. Is that just me?
No, I didn't do.
Or someone you admire. It doesn't have to be a crush, you know?
I don't care what you think, and I don't like it.
And you go and you make sure that like you're presenting yourself in the right way. I think that's a little bit what Gatsby is doing here, seeing everything in his house now through Daisy's eyes to make sure she would approve, you know? Yeah.
And if he does, it's like, oh, she got this, but really.
Yeah, that's a great point. That word that puts two characters in comparison to each other, it's called a foil. Like one character having a foil means that they have a character that brings out their opposite qualities. And in Daisy's eyes, maybe Gatsby is a foil to Tom, where it's showing that like it kind of brings out the idea that Tom doesn't really care about Daisy or what she thinks or anything like that, because Tom has this security. Gatsby's insecurity actually might make Daisy feel good because he's actually caring about what she thinks. Let me ask this. This is for everyone because this group didn't have to talk about this, but this part with the shirts, let's read it. It says he took out, it's on 92. He took out a pile of shirts and began throwing them one by one before us, shirts of sheer linen and thick silk and fine flannel, which lost their folds as they fell and covered the table in many colored disarray. While we admired, he brought more, and the soft, rich heap mounted higher, shirts with stripes and scrolls and plaids in coral and apple green and lavender and faint orange with monograms of Indian blue. Suddenly, with a strained sound, Daisy bent her head into the shirts and began to cry stormily. "They're such beautiful shirts," she sobbed, her voice muffled in the thick folds. "It makes me sad because I've never seen such beautiful shirts before." It's kind of a weird moment. Like, why is Daisy crying about shirts? How'd you guys interpret that? Okay, maybe she's crazy. Girls are so crazy. No. Yeah.
I like she might be overwhelmed in a way.
Yeah.
with everything that's going on, especially because like that felt so unnecessary. So she's like, she can kind of tell that he's trying to like show off or do that. So she's like, well, I have a husband, like kind of it's all hitting her like, oh gosh.
I love that. So before, where it might just be, here, let me give you a house tour, this, it's like very clearly, this is, I'm showing off for you. So it might be pushing the moral dilemma that she has to make a choice here. And so maybe she's crying at that overwhelming emotions.
Yeah, it's like showing that he wants her to kind of be with him and like show all those things, but then she's now realizing, oh, like what did he?
Good, his intentions become more clear there. Good. JD?
I was gonna say like the same thing, but like it's like this movie where a kid was inside, he like
freaks out about frozen chicken, right? It's like her frozen chicken, it's like this dumb little thing, but now she's actually realizing like everything's going on.
Wait, I don't get the frozen chicken reference though.
It's like he
What
should be
movie are you
he like he's with this guy, so it's in Manchester by the Sea.
Yes, but I saw it in theaters, so it's been. a
So
while.
like the kid, like his dad dies.
Yeah.
And he's like freaking out, right? And finally, just like one thing, like he hits his head on like the refrigerator, and like for some reason that just makes him think of everything else.
I
And
see.
then he starts like crying about the frozen chicken, like yells at the dude about frozen chicken. So it's like it's the one thing that like makes him freak out.
Yes, I really like that. Actually, it's like it's kind of what Sophie sorry was saying, which it's like this sort of build up until this one moment where it all cracks and breaks. She also, though, could it be happy tears? Because this suggests like super anxious tears, panic attack tears, right? But could she also be seeing all these shirts and actually saying like, they're so beautiful, like it's bringing her to tears? Ashley?
The therapist told me about this.
Okay.
People do this all the time. They'll like, things will happen and it will like build up and they'll just like sweep it under the rug. And then like they will go up and like the littlest thing happens. And then it'll all just.
I see that sometimes with students.
Oh, I do it.
Yeah, where I'll give like a very small assignment and that's the thing that breaks them. And it's like from my perspective, I'm like, you can do it, but from theirs, they're dealing with mounting stresses. Yeah. I do also want to say though, like there is a chance that she sees all these shirts and she's just like, I can be with this guy because he has lots of money and he has lots of shirts, you know, like these are nice shirts. And now I can like have what I want with Gatsby. So it's something to consider as we move forward. Okay, last group, we're going to go to page 95, 96. Okay, this is a strange one because this is like Nick waxing poetic about what is going on with Gatsby right now. But what did you guys felt like was revealed in this little section?
So there's a line where so Nick says that Daisy fell short of Gatsby's dreams, but it wasn't her fault. It was because Gatsby's dreams were just so big. And so we kind of talked about how nothing will ever be perfect because everything he wants in his own perfect. And so he's always fail, he'll never achieve that.
Yeah, so he's like looking to Daisy to fill in what that perfect dream is. But if he's dependent on Daisy, then she's going to fall short. People aren't perfect, is what you're saying. Yeah. I think there's a moment here where it says like this expression of bewilderment had come back into Gatsby's face as though a faint doubt had occurred to him as to the quality of his present happiness. Something about this, like, have you ever wanted something really, really badly and you work really hard towards it and then you get that thing? And even if that thing is great, it's kind of a letdown. It's not just about that thing not being perfect. It's that like the hard work and the ambition was sort of satisfying in itself. My parents do like Ironman races and they talk about this after their Ironman races. They'll always say like, well, now what? Like they feel like they almost like kind of go into like a post-race couple-day depression because they're just like, all of this stuff that I've been spending my time on is done now. Kind of what was it all for? I think he might be looking at Daisy and looking at his house and saying, I did all of this for her and here she is. So now what? You know? What were you going to say over there though, Jim?
I was gonna say when you said, "Oh, now what?"
Yeah.
You accomplished
Right. After the accomplishing, like working towards accomplishing something is satisfying in itself. And it's got this like forward momentum and suddenly it kind of comes to a halt. Okay, there's one more section that I want to look at, which is goes backwards. So go to page 48. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about like the Gatsby that Nick sees, because this is all the way that Gatsby is trying to portray himself. But I just love the way that Nick like immediately sort of like he like sees Gatsby the first time and he's just like best friend, you know, like it's almost immediate. And it happens right here. It says, so they're at the party and he's just talking and he doesn't realize he's talking to Gatsby, and Gatsby says, I'm Gatsby. What? I exclaimed, oh, I beg your pardon. I thought you knew, old sport. I'm afraid I'm not a very good host. He smiled understandingly. much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced or seemed to face the whole external world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you that, at your best, you hoped to convey. Precisely at that point, it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck, a year or 2 over 30, whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. So there's this smile. Gatsby smiles at him, and Nick is just like blown away by this smile. He's just like, oh, that smile. What is so great about Gatsby's smile for Nick? It reassures him. Yeah, in a way. What is it reassuring of then? Like, why does Nick need reassurance? It's weird.
That it's like a part of that type of group, because he sees Gatsby and like wants what he has. Like it's like, you know, he always thought like that's everything he kind of wants. The fact that he like acknowledges him, it's not like so distant from him. So it's reassuring that.
Yeah, Gatsby, like Nick has been an observer for so long, and he just sort of stays on the outskirts, and here's Gatsby saying like, you're a part of this. So he feels accepted. Yeah, Dash.
Kind of going off that. So he's been hearing like all my people hearing all these like about Gatsby, and so he didn't really know what to expect. So he was kind of nervous.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it so much. So Gatsby has all these people who have these rumors about him, right? There's all these people who are saying stuff about Gatsby that he doesn't necessarily want spread around. And then Gatsby tries to build up his own reputation by saying like, oh, I'm from the Middle West, like San Francisco, my parents died, all of this. Like he tries to carefully manipulate what people think of him. And what I like is that he's not a hypocrite for doing so. Like he doesn't try to figure out stuff about other people that they don't want them to know. Does that make sense? Like here he says he looks at, it understands you as much as you want it to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself. And no one believes in themselves, it seems like, more than Gatsby and his dream, you know, like this is my house, this is who I am, this is like the story I'm going to tell about myself. So when he smiles at Nick, he's like extending this courtesy that he would like other people to extend to him. Why don't people smile at Gatsby like that and understand Gatsby the way he wants to be understood? That's kind of the idea. So I think this like sets them up to have this really great connection through the rest of the book, Nick and Gatsby. Okay, that's enough for Gatsby. Turn in your charts to that Canvas assignment. We're gonna have it just when we're done with the book.
After the book, I thought it was like today. I was so stoked.
Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
like, let's
I'm
go.
sorry. No, we gotta plan it so that you have like treats and
Are we all gonna bring something?
it's up to you, but well, well, there's a limit. All right, yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna bring a blender.
What about the epic cookies?
Oh, they're so good. I think I actually have that. Every time we do the.
You guys have like margarita mix and you like make these? That's so funny.
My dad used to like travel for business all the time.
Uh-huh. So he needed,
Like, hey, can I get like a burger thing with like Sprite or something?
yeah,
And he's like, this is fire, I want some.
he didn't want to just order a Shirley Temple.
Yeah. And so one time we were like at my house and we tried it with my friend. He's like, this is fantastic. And so like every time we do like overnights at my house, at the table, we always like make a bunch of virgin margaritas. It's like it's a great time.
I really like that.
It's great, you know.
All right, move your desks back to where they were. You don't need your Chromebooks anymore. Shut them down. And then, yeah, why don't you head back to your seat? Sing it.
Sorry. Actually, I don't know. Sorry.
So she had a baby, and then she had to wait 40 minutes to have the other baby.
All right, 20 seconds back in your seat. Oh no, we're on 15. 13. main one.
Oh, it was JJ. He's using it. JJ, now you gotta take this back so good. Thank you.
Amazon's worth.
Okay, remember how we have done entities so far with your thesis statements, right? Which is a claim. Oh, we're doing this. Plus a reason. Yeah, we're still working on argument, right? So we're gonna do a little enthymeme speed round where I want you to write 3 thesis statements with this structure. So before we do this, remember, your claim needs to be argumentative. So it needs to be something that someone else could say, no, that's not true. I have a different opinion. And your reason needs to be something that backs up why your claim is true. And you're gonna try and make your reason specific enough that, well, it needs to be specific, but not so minutely specific that you wouldn't be able to write a whole paper on. So imagine, you're not writing the whole thing, but imagine you had to write like a 3-page paper about this topic. What would your reason be for this? So for example, the first one I'm gonna have you do is what is the best movie of all time? So if I say something like The Godfather is, let's do Shrek. Let's do a movie, you know. Shrek is the best movie.
Who's there? I'll do it.
No, I say,
Dude, the high school. They're like,
We're not letting anyone else. You're not stop about it.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so let's say my thesis, I do not actually believe this. This is just for, so if I say that's true. If I say Shrek is the best movie, that is my claim, right? And then I need to have a reason that focuses that. There's tons of stuff you could say about why Shrek is a good movie, but I want to focus my paper. So I say because it mixes the perfect amount of crude humor with a warm-hearted message, so that I've got this clear reason.
Wait, are you gonna do like
Yes, for these 3, yes. Okay, so right now, write a thesis statement about using this interview structure, about what you think the best movie of all time is. Okay. So you're writing it as a thesis statement, and it's a speed round, so you got 3 minutes.
My brain do this, my brain can't do it.
You can do it.
Give me a topic.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to show these in a second. 3 minutes on the clock to write it. Go. Yep.
Can we do shows? Are we doing movies? What if you have?
We're gonna do a show. Should be silent in here. Jaden, you only have 2 minutes left to write it. You can't talk yet. You got just decide on one.
Okay, looks like everyone's got it. All right, you had 10 seconds left, but we had a late start here. Okay, so sorry, I gotta leave the time for a second, so hopefully you can see it. The 5 qualities that we talked about a good thesis having: number 1, grammatically perfect; number 2, interesting; number 3, focused; number 4, it's actually argumentative, so it's not just like movies are, I don't know, moving pictures, you know, it's not something that's just like a fact. And then number 5, it has literal language. So I want to show you, I wrote this fast and I messed up. Warm-hearted. Does your heart actually get warm when you experience good feelings?
Yeah.
No, it's not actually warm. That is a idiom, warm-hearted. So I need to revise my thesis so that it doesn't have warm-hearted anymore. So you're going to share your thesis now with somebody next to you, and you're going to talk through each of these. Let me do it this way. Find one of these things that they could improve on and let them know how they can improve it.
You said all that too?
Okay, we're gonna do another one now. So take a space. Take a space, and here's your second argument that you're gonna write. So again, I'm gonna time you. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes to write a thesis statement. And the question is, what is the most difficult sport?
These are really controversial.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
You know what it is?
You know what?
What is it called?
Yeah, I won't say soccer. It's not about playing.
Okay, we're gonna do 2.5 this time. Ready? 2.5 minutes. Go. Hey, silent while you want to spell your thesis.
Sounds like when you dive off a freaking cliff. That's so scary. No.
I think it's synchronized.
Rock or something. Like, everyone can rock climb, but like.
Okay.
Wait, it's
Golf.
not right. Golf is not freaking hard.
Golf is hard. Go play around the golf ball.
Shut up.
You got 2 minutes.
Read my thesis statement.
5 seconds. Okay, same deal. You're gonna read them your thesis, and again, rather than arguing about whether or not it's true, make sure you find one constructive thing to say about it, like one way that they can improve the thesis statement. Okay, try it again. Yeah. All right, last one. Okay, let me get your attention. Last one. Okay, I know this one is controversial.
Oh, no.
So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to talk about it first. It's gonna be 2 minutes to talk about it first, and then we'll do the thesis. Okay, is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
No. No.
Who said?
Okay, discuss for 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh, it's insane in here.
Subway doesn't sell it. What do you see? Taco was a sandwich.
Okay. For a second. Okay, you now have 2 minutes. This one's faster. So 2 minutes to write your thesis statement.
Look at the double.
Oh, no, you look at it.
You got a minute and a half. You're gonna turn this in, by the way. Yeah, 30 seconds. Three, two, one. Okay. So for this one, I want you now to look through your 3 thesis statements and decide which one of these thesis statements that you think is the best. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that you had to actually write this paper. And I'm not saying that your argument in these, well, I am. So what I'm saying is like, which one do you think is your strongest thesis statement? And you can think about that in these 5 terms. You can also think about which one has the strongest argument to it. But think about like the language that you are using. Which one do you think is your best written thesis statement? That's how I should say it. Your best written thesis. I put a star next to it. Then, once you've got that, this is the last thing we'll do today. I want you to write a couple sentences that explains why that is your best thesis. So put a star, and then down below, write, this is why this one's my best thesis statement. Try to be specific. Don't say things like, oh, it flows. Instead, tell me why it flows. Oh, I used this word to create a transition, and that's why it flows. You know? That's it for today. So turn on your screen. Okay, let's